Hello everyone, welcome back to Channel Musa Gaming here, and today I want to talk to you about Bai Qi and his skill set. And specifically in relation to, is he really the greatest of all times? Because I'm watching a lot of videos that are covering his skill sets by by basically everyone who's making content about Rise of Kingdoms, and they're actually all claiming Bai Qi will be probably the best commander, or at least the sentiment of it is that Bai Qi will be the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms. But as I mentioned in my earlier video, which the link will be in the description down below, I think Bai Qi and whatever his skill set is meant to do still needs some speculation. That's why in the thumbnail itself I said Bai Qi may not be the OP commander that you might think that he is, because he will be very strong. Don't get me wrong. I think he will be better than Liu Che by far. But I think there's a good chance that he might not be as strong as Arthur on open field. And here's why. By the way, actually, let's just first talk about his first two skills. Because first two skills, if you just look at his first two skills, his skill set is just awesome. His skill set is just amazing. There's nothing really bad to say about it. But let's just take a look at them. The first one, Let Heaven and Earth Grieve, doing 2400 damage factor, 5 target AoE, and it does it in a circular AoE apparently. This is the information that I didn't have when I actually covered it earlier today. So he does circular AoE, 5 target, smite damage, 2400 damage factor, with each target having 30% chance to take 15% extra damage. Now, with 30% chance, you're going to either take 2400 damage factor, or you can actually take, I think if you do the math, it's going to be like 2720. Yeah, so you either take 2400 damage factor or 2720 multiplied by whatever the damage factor reduction that you're supposed to get from AoE. First skill, very, very great skill. Not gonna lie. One thing that I think a lot of people undermine is that this 30% chance to take 15% extra damage, in average, is going to be about 4.5% extra damage. Because you gotta actually look at everything in averages, and because you're gonna be using this guy for a very long time, you're not gonna look at every single report and be like, hey, like I performed really well today, and this commander is great, but like you're gonna actually use him perpetually, right? So in average, this is gonna be about 4.5% buff that you're gonna actually be able to get from this skill. So give or take, this is basically a 2500 damage factor, 25 something, 25 10, 25, 20 damage factor, smite damage, AoE, half circle, great, awesome. His first skill is probably the best area of effect damage that infantry has ever gotten, especially considering that this is smite damage. And there's not that many ways for you to actually mitigate smite damage not as much as you can with, let's say, something like skill damage, right? Skill damage, your talent tree can mitigate a lot of it. Like your equipment has like some iconic 5 stuff that will actually mitigate a lot of skill damage and stuff. So like, yeah, there's a lot of ways for you to actually mitigate skill damage, whereas smite damage almost works like half true damage, half skill damage. So great, probably one of the best skills, arguably better than the ones that Arthur has, in my opinion, because of the fact that one is a smite damage, and two is because it's half circle AoE, right? In terms of damage factor, though, I think Arthur has a little bit of upper hand, given that he can be used as a combo damage commander, which does actually 2000 damage factor. So, and combo is also like smite damage, where it doesn't really have that many ways for you to mitigate it. So I think Arthur has a little bit more potential with the first skill, but because it's a half circle, I think this skill right here is actually much better than the one that Arthur has. Straight up, I understand, I accept it. The second skill is also very good. 20% march speed, great. Infantry as the slowest troop type in Rise of Kingdoms, you need a lot of march speed. So 20% march speed is great. 10% health could be better, but 40% attack is good. I think this commander in particular will benefit a lot more from attack stats than any other commander, because he has a lot of self-buffing normal damage skills. And also, the way he works, it just simply benefits a lot from attack, in my opinion. So his first two skills, amazing. I'm not going to argue about it. Everyone agrees, I think, including myself, that his first two skills alone, he's probably one of the best commanders ever released. Arguably better than the best commander that I think that is right now in Rising Kingdom, which is Arthur, uh, and particularly because this is a half circle AOE, the first active skill. But I think the mechanics related to Malice is where I am not 100% sure whether the rest of his kit kind of works as well as a lot of people might think it would. Just because I think, like, yeah, if you look at Arthur's skill set, everything kind of works in favor, beginning from very first active skill to second skill to third skill, fourth skill, fifth skill, like expertise skill. They all work in favor. But this commander right here has amazing start with the first couple skills. But then again, when you get to this Malice stuff, it's very hard to understand. But the way that I understand it, and I could very well be wrong, I think it is arguable that he's not potentially as strong as Arthur, is my opinion. And here's why I think that's the case. So this commander's troop deals 10% more normal damage. That's good. That's almost as good as almost 20% skill damage, just because of the fact that 50% of the damage that he deals is most likely going to come from normal damage and counterattack damage. And also at the same time, he would also do a lot of damage. The smite damage itself will get a 10% buff. So overall, damage output wise, I think this is almost as good as 20% skill damage, which is amazing. But rest of it, when attacking a field troop, you gain 10 stacks of Malice. And then 10 stacks of Malice for every unit that you lose. Okay, so there are two occasions already. One occasion is when you enter a combat with another troop type in a field. And this is actually only related to field troop. It says field troop, meaning that non-rallied garrison troop on the map, which is a new concept, I think. But it's just not basically, you can't garrison and expect this to basically activate, is what this is basically saying. But yeah, you get 10, and then you get 10% every time you basically lose your 10% of your unit. So, which is good. 5% bonus to smite damage up to 30% for every 10% of units that this is missing. So I think this is a part that I think a lot of people may misunderstand, is that this almost sounds like you can almost expect all damage of at least like 15%, 10%, right? When you read this. The way that unit capacity works and how it scales with damage factor most often of the time does not work in favor of a skill that scales with you not having as much unit type, in my opinion. So for example, if you're at 70% troop unit capacity, you'll get what? 5% bonus, so 15% bonus damage, smite damage. It's not normal damage, it's smite damage. You will deal 15% smite damage for being 70% of your unit capacity. So what does that mean? So let's say you're about to you do 100 damage at 100% unit capacity, but you're at 70% because you have 30% less of troop types. You're gonna do 70 active skill damage, smite damage. Let's just say that that's how much damage you're gonna do. You get 15% more smite damage on top of that. So this is gonna bump your smite damage up to 10% at 70% unit capacity, which is not bad, but it's not as good as a lot of people might think, in my opinion. So this is one area that I think like a lot of people misunderstands. And let's say if it goes down to max stack of 30%, which means that you're gonna need to be at 40% health, right? Let's do the same assumptions. You would do 100 damage at 100% health. You would do 40 damage at 40% health, because that's just how the damage factor and scaling works in this game. And you do 30% more damage on top of that. That's only 12% extra that you're gonna do from 100% that you could have actually done. So as you go down, in essence, as you go down in unit capacity, the more damage that you deal does not really scale as much as you might think it is the point that I wanted to make. So that's one point. So this last line is not really that strong as what I'm trying to say. But again, the whole thing about Malice. Let's just talk about Malice. I think the whole kit around Bai Qi evolves around this Ravager of Land and Spirit thing. And you get 10 stacks whenever you basically use an active skill. You get whenever you enter a combat, and then whenever you lose 10% of your troops. So when you enter the combat, you will start with 10. And then whenever you basically use an active skill, you gain another 10. whenever you 10% lose 10% of your units, then you lose 10%. So in a full skill cycle, let's say you lose 10% of your skill, 10% of your health, and your enemy loses 10% of your health. So in general, you'll get 10 from entering combat. You'll gain 10 from 20 actually from using primary and secondary commanders' active skills, and then for losing 10% of your unit, you get 40. So you in a normal like some assumed battle condition, you're gonna most likely stack about 40 malice per each skill cycle. So that means that you'll need minimum of 2 skill cycle for you to start firing off this smite damage of damage factor of 300 using Malice. So for you to benefit from any of those Malices that you actually gain from his skill set that is actually spread around 2 different skills, you need to at least cycle off 2 skill cycles. And it could go up to 3 or 4 depending on how much damage that you take on the field. So unless you're actually getting hurt a lot by a lot of enemies, I think this Malice and smite damage factor 300 stuff is going to be really tough for a lot of players to actually benefit from this, is how I'm interpreting this. Because the maximum that you can, again, maximum Malice that you can get in a single turn, unless you're basically dying on the field. At that point, your unit capacity is so low that you're not going to do enough damage either way. But let's say you lose 10% of units, you gain 10%, you use 2 active skills cycle per cycle, and then at least 2 skill cycle for you to actually be able to activate at least 1 smite damage buff, right? So it's going to be very tough for you to actually have this activated as often as you might imagine this to trigger, is where I'm trying to get you at. It will be great. This commander, I think, will be great if you're actually attacking someone who is very low. It will be very, very quickly auto attack smite damage of 300 damage factor. So auto smite, auto smite, auto smite. This is what this Malice would do. But then again, you can only do that for only 4 turns too, right? Within a one single skill cycle after you use all your active skills. So I think what a lot of people think is that, oh, this whole Malice thing is really, really cool. You'll be able to fire off as basically like you'll be able to activate, your smite damage very, very frequently, and do a lot more skill damage and severe damage, rage regeneration and severe wounds inflicted after you actually, do all those extra smite damage that you deal. But no, unless you're basically killing a troop that is very low already after, and that is given that you already did a full skill cycle on the field, this is not going to trigger as often, in my opinion, as you might think. So martial culture and Ravager of the Land and Spirit, I think, is so conditioned. And whenever there's so many conditions that are in the game, more often than not, I think it is tough to see the full benefit of those skills as often as you might imagine in your head. With that said, his blood and blood upon blood skill. Let's take a look at this one too. So if this commander's troop is on the map after severely wounding 400,000 enemy units, 400,000 enemy units, it gains 5% bonus to normal damage dealt. I'm gonna say this right away. You're almost never going to benefit from this. If your single march is already wounded 400,000 enemy units, then you're almost near dead, that this does not really matter. Like, no matter how much of an advantage that you have on the field, 400,000 enemy units is a lot. 200,000 enemy units is a lot, to be really honest with you. That means that you already sat face a full march and half at the minimum, or like maybe 2 full marches already. So this first line does not matter at all. This first line is basically non-existent, right? So second line, when reduced to 50 units remaining, it deals 60% more damage and takes 30% less damage for the next 6 seconds. This is a pretty good skill. Whenever you're getting swarmed down by an enemy, you're not going to go down that easily, and you're going to basically generate a lot of Malice while you're at it. And you're going to take 30% less damage, deal 60% more damage, so you'll be able to basically fire off the Ravager of Land and Spirit, but then again, it will basically be tanking a lot of damage as you do so. And then when you reduce down to 15%, It deals 100% more damage and takes 50% less damage for the next 6 seconds. Again, even greater buff that you gain from this while also taking less damage. So this combined with the fact that this stacking when you lose your units basically does allow you to do almost as good of a damage as you would, let's say, at 50% if you're at 15%, and like I don't know, 70% when you're at 50% is basically how I think of this skill as. And but I think what a lot of people kind of misunderstand is that if you're at 50% units remaining, everything that you'll do is already at 50%, and for you to actually deal a full march worth of damage already, you're going to need at least 100% of damage buff from all sources. And this can provide that, but it will provide you for that six seconds, because you'll be able to get the benefit of this one, which will give you the extra smite damage dealt. You'll do a lot more Malice with the Ravager of the Land and Spirit. And you'll do 60% more damage and take 30% less skill damage, less damage for the next 6 seconds. But 6 seconds is actually a lot shorter than what a lot of people think. So this will give you tankiness for sure, like 100%. But I think it will be tough for you to actually utilize this on the massive AoE skill that you actually have. And even if you do so, you'll basically do the same amount of damage that your full march at 100% unit capacity will do. That's just a one-time thing that you can do per each time that you dispatch, right? And that is if you get lucky. And on top of that, you will do a lot of Ravager of the Land and Spirit damage too, but that's basically like doing another auto attack in half, right? So you can technically do like 3-4 extra auto attack worth of Ravager of the Land and Spirit, but then again, like after 6 seconds, you really don't do that much damage thereafter. So this gives you the tankiness, and it also promotes you more gameplay that basically makes you fight until you get sad face with this particular army. But that's a new gameplay style. And I think what has worked for so far for most people that are playing Rise of Kingdoms, Season of Conquest, Murder Brawl fighting is that you go in and out of the battle with 5 march, 6 march, 7 marches that you actually have, and then run out as you get targeted, because you don't want that unit to be basically targeted down and then destroyed, right? Not a lot of people are going to have the opportunity to have, and this is where why I think he's not as good as what people claim him to be, is not a lot of people are going to be able to separate out Bai Qi and then throw it to the enemy army or whatever. And if Bai Qi gets targeted, like, do you really want to actually leave Bai Qi behind while you have like 5, 6, 7 units marches Murder Ball? No, you're going to still pull them out, because everyone else, all the other marches are actually not playing the way in which that Bai Qi is actually promoted to play. So the gameplay style is so different that I think in reality, he will do a lot of damage for sure. He will do a lot of damage with the massive spike damage with 2400 damage factor, 5 target, fan stuff. That's good. But if you are expecting a lot of his power to come from this Malice, I really think that you should probably think twice before investing in going full ham on him, is my suggestion. So yeah, that was just something that I just need to get it off my chest, because I was eating out right now until just now, and I was thinking, like, is Bai Qi really the best commander in the game? I watched a lot of YouTube videos that basically claim to be, almost, but like in reality, like, it's going to be very tough for you to fully utilize this Malice stuff unless you actually basically stay on the field for a very long time. But like, how are you going to be able to stay on the field that long at a time, activating multiple cycles of active skills, and then, while staying as healthy, or, like, if you get actually low enough, you throw only Bai Qi back to the enemy so that the Bai Qi will die, but then again do enough damage with his new Malice damage skills and stuff. Yeah, like, whenever there's so much conditions on a commander, I think chances are they will disappoint you at some point to a certain degree, is my opinion. But yeah, I hope this wasn't coming off as like, yeah, Bai Qi is trash or anything. No, Bai Qi is great. Bai Qi is going to be great. But if I were to be asked today whether he's going to be the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms, just based on what I'm seeing on the screen, he definitely will be the best infantry commander in Rise of Kingdoms. But I personally think that it is arguable that Arthur is better. For one, is because his true power isn't even unlocked fully yet. Like a lot of people are using him as skill damage commander, but once he gets actually transferred over to being a combo damage commander, he would also benefit from the fact that combo damage does not have any means for enemies to actually reduce the damage of that combo damage that he does. So once Arthur becomes a full combo damage commander, I think a lot of people would actually be able to reevaluate him. But for Bai Qi, his damage factor is great. Again, like I'm saying that he's probably the best or the second best commander in Rise of Kingdoms, but can I confidently claim that he's the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms? I don't think so. But I just see a lot of content creators basically claim that he is. But like if you read through his stuff carefully, his things evolve around him having less unit types, less health basically, and that would obviously reduce the amount of damage that he deals, because that's how the damage factors work in this game, right? But on top of that, even if you buff up that 50% remaining units, it's not going to be as good, in my opinion, as, let's say, giving them full, just flat up 10% damage buff, right? And the smite damage mechanics that you need to do, and the amount of malice that you actually need to stack in order for you to really enjoy the benefit of Ravager of the Land and Spirit, I think it's just too conditional for us to actually safely claim that he is the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms, in my opinion. All right, well, I hope you guys actually enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys don't hate me, because I'm not doing this because I'm a cavalry main. I just want to throw that out there. And I have previously rated infantry as the best troop type for you to actually start in Rise of Kingdom in 2025 as well, previously, just because of how much power that they actually had, even with the release of Arthur. But yeah, I think people are a little bit too excited about Bai Qi, to be really honest with you, and I think you really have to see until you see the full power actually in the game, before you actually make that call. All right, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and as always, I'll see y'all on the next video. Thank you.